What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over the Autumn of Agony Week 3. That's the new Cassie Lang boss. As you can see, this fight is working perfectly as it should, and there are no problems at all. So what we're going to do is jump in, go over each of the objectives, and counters for each and how you can best get through this fight. Alright, so the first objective that we went through, that I got through, was the Psychic Shielding and Size M. So the better champions for this, I'm using Professor X here, but to be honest with you, Red Magneto and Jack-O-Lantern are probably the better options for this. Speaking of which, Jack-O-Lantern actually covers 2 objectives, so that's something to consider. You can knock out 2 birds with 1 stone, and he does the fight pretty well. But the main premise of the fight here is the Bust a Groove 2 node, which is every 15 seconds, Cassie's going to switch between evading all basic attacks or causing all your special attacks to miss. And so that's kind of the main thing you have to deal with. You can do that by parrying or well-timed blocking her, and you will switch between a Pursuit passive, which will stop the evade, and a Vigilance passive, which will stop the miss. So that's the main mechanic of the fight. So I'm using Professor X here, so you can actually bypass that completely. When Professor X has 25 of his Cerebro charges, you cannot be evaded, and you also gain Vigilance, in which case you can't miss. So that's something a little cheeky you can do with Professor X. You do still have to watch out for the power stings that come up. You've also got to watch out for the Crush passive if you back up too quickly. So there are things that you got to be careful with, and so that's why I think Red Magneto and Jack-O-Lantern probably handle the fight better. But if you hold on to your Cerebro charges, you don't have to worry about the main mechanic of the fight, which helps you get through it a lot quicker and makes it a little bit, well, maybe not quicker, but it does make it a little bit safer in that regard. But she does beat up your block, something to think about too. My Professor X isn't ascended here, so that would probably help. Or if you had a 7-star Professor X, you'd probably be just fine. Moving on to the 2024 hero objective, we're using Ironheart for this fight, though again I think there's a few better options, even though I think she takes the fight really well. But what you want to do when you start the fight off, if you noticed, is you want to start off by parrying, because that will give you the Pursuit passive, as Cassie starts off with the basic evade passive, and so that helps you counter that kind of right away. You don't want to parry again, because you will automatically switch to the Vigilance passive, which isn't going to help you land your basic attacks. So that's kind of the thing. You have to land that timing. Otherwise, you can put yourself in a lot of trouble, have her evading all your attacks, or you're missing your specials. So you've got to have the right passive up while she has the corresponding passive that you need to counter, essentially. Now, Ironheart does do the fight fine. The problem is she also has the Beast of Burden node, which is for every debuff she has, the following debuffs are reduced in duration quite significantly. So you can't actually quite get 6 of your debuffs up in order to counter the miss, essentially. But what you can do is use special 3 attacks to keep permanent incinerates or ruptures on Cassie Lang, which lets you at least do some extra damage. And then if you've got max of 5 of those, you can end a combo with a medium attack to then throw a special 2 that's guaranteed to hit, even if she's got the miss passive up. Other champions that work for this objective include White Tiger, Spider-Punk, Patriot does really well, Dust would do really well. The only one who doesn't do so hot is probably Beta Ray Bill, which is unfortunate, and that's just because Cassie Lang is immune to shock, so you're not going to get any of those big bursts of damage. It's just going to be a slow fight, so that's something to consider as well. Now moving on to the final objective, that's with a tech champion that is also a villain, so we're using Red Skull here, even though this is the objective that Jack-O-Lantern also fits. So if you use Jack-O-Lantern, you're going to cover Psychic Shielding medium, and then also tech villain. So that's something that would be really, really useful, just to be able to get 2 of the objectives done at once. I do want to give one extra tip here, is you want to stop, in order to avoid getting the Crush passive on you, you can quite easily intercept Cassie Lang's heavy attack, just dodge back from the first one, and then you can kind of go back in immediately and interrupt her heavy attack. It does move pretty darn slowly, and so you can get in there quick enough to do that. Just that way you're avoiding the crush, just kind of like that. So otherwise, with Red Skull, the strategy would be to just go to your special 3, honestly, to keep recharging your armors. Again, Cassie Lang's immune to shock, so your special 2 is not going to really do much, and your special 1 doesn't hit that hard anyway, but the armor ups are nice, and you can keep draining her power, which doesn't let her use many specials. Another tip is you do not want to let Cassie Lang use the special 1. It just adds another layer of pressure with the combo detonation that you really just don't want to deal with. So I would avoid the special 1 at all costs if you can just keep pushing her to a special 2, or keep her from getting them at all. And then again, you always want to avoid the power stings, otherwise you're going to get hit real hard, like I just did. But those tips should help you guys out, and I hope that was beneficial. And any questions or concerns in the comments, and best of luck in the battle realm, my friends.